And then next one is the favorite part of the day for me, because we are going to have the Innovator Workshops, which is meant for all of you to network together. All the innovators who are here today present are able to present their innovation to others. And I think like the main thing for the sessions is to ask help. Like when you are presenting your innovation, please ask please ask from others, what kind of help would you like to receive? What kind of questions you have in your mind at the moment? Since we have learned through the years that often we need help when we are scaling up the innovations. The others might have some good practices, some knowledge, how you can kind of like help your innovation spread even further. And the group number 5, don't be afraid, you are not going to travel to Munich. It's a room in this building. So we have, if you look at your badge right now, you can see a small number attached next to your name. So that is the group you are belonging to, and we are mixing you up a little bit so you can meet new people and you can present your innovation in those groups. And then we have volunteers who are kindly helping you up to set up and in these locations in this building. So when you are walking around, look for the numbers and you will find the way, or ask from our volunteers. All right, welcome back from the lunch. Next is up the workshop sessions together with our innovators around the world. The people watching the online stream will join us at the main stage, where we have group 1 going through the innovations. I would like to invite Freddie to the stage, who will be hosting this session with me, and Freddie will be calling the innovators one by one here. And every innovator have 10 minutes to explain the innovation, and then some time for questions and discussion. If you are asking a question from an innovator, please wait until you get a microphone, so also the people watching the online stream will hear you. All right, so let's get the session started. Freddie?
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'd first like to invite Broad Class Listen to Learn to the stage, please.
So what I have to do?
Do you want to play the video?
Yes.
And then when it's in, then you can press the next one.
Okay. Voice.
In order to overcome this challenge, Power 99 Foundation is using radio not only to educate children but to train teachers alike.
Assalamu alaikum, teacher and students.
Teacher, draw 2 eyes on the board.
आप स्टूडेंट से कहें कि जब वो लेटर डी साउंड ड से शुरू होने Ready, students?
Radio brought a transformation. Now there are plenty of shoutings and lots of action right in the middle of the lesson. Fun that never used to be in teacher's lesson plan.
We never used to have games during lesson, but now we have ball game and rhymes. That's a big advance for us teachers, and especially for the children who really have fun.
In Broadcast Listen to Learn program, learning is fun with a purpose. In addition to vocabulary, it's teaching gender equality.
There is gender role defining in the textbooks. Girls means helping their mothers in the kitchen, and the boys playing in the park. These are the gaps which we are trying to fill. In our content, the boy is helping his mother, and the girl is playing. So girl can play.
The program provides 40 hours training. Teachers who until now only know the conventional methods, it's completely new experience for them, like practicing role play and singing rhymes.
I can make myself small, small like a dog.
The classroom radios are purposefully manufactured by where they are put to use, thus creating jobs and increasing the acceptance within the community. The radios are in-house developed. After all, they have to make certain requirements. The speakers chosen are the very best for the classroom. And as there are many electricity cuts, each radio is equipped with strong rechargeable battery. Additionally, Broadcast tries to involve the community in several out-of-school activities to improve the social life within the villages. The initial idea was to make the use of medium radio, which reaches out to even far remote areas. Currently benefiting more than 100,000 children, mostly girls. The program hits the right tone, as modern as possible, while as traditional as necessary. We need sport to replicate the program, not only in Pakistan, but in the region, as it's easily replicable and most affordable education intervention.
This is the program, and how to go for the. I hope this video would help you to understand how we are working with the program. It has two components. One is interactive teaching for the children, and the other is teachers training and the professional development. For the video. We are a non-for-profit organization and having a team of diverse and experienced people. Our mission is to transform education system in Pakistan as an effective and model knowledge and developing critical thinking skill among students for peaceful coexistence. According to SDGs, ensure inclusive and quality education for children and lifelong learning opportunities. We have a lot of challenges. 22.84 children are out of school, 40% are enrolled and drop out. 37% of age 5 to 6 are able to read at least words in English. Wide gaps in learning outcomes and inactive parents and gap between schools and the communities. Solution, we need something out of box, use of more effective teaching methodology, well-trained teachers and parental community involvement. We pioneered broadcast using radio as a medium for providing high-quality interactive audio programs. The program uses 3 Ps, that is presentation, practice, and performances, and we expose learners to regular national curriculum-based content, and medium of instruction is local along with English as a second language. 2 components of the program are content development and implementation. In the content, we designed the scope sequence of the plan with the IRI experts. Then there are training sessions with the experts, script writing, and then production of the content for broadcast. Implementation, we gave orientation to the educational department, 40 hours face-to-face teachers training. We provide material and radio sets. Then we broadcast lessons, and during the lessons, we visit schools twice in a month for the technical assistance and the sensitization of the school councils, not only on ground in the school, but also using radio for their voices and for the advocacy of the program. The objective was to improve the learning outcomes and literacy numeracy, to improve teaching practices through capacity building, to reduce dropout, and to increase parents' participation in the schools. The resources that we provide are teacher guides, audiobooks, storybooks, radio sets, flashcards, and each material is age appropriate. This is the broadcast hot clock. At 45 minutes daily, we broadcast the lesson. These are the characters who interact with the children, and every character has its role to play to meet the individualized need, interest, and strength of the children. We also involve community, and mostly mothers, they are allowed to come to school, and they are not only join the sensitization session, but they also work as a helping hand in schools, like planting tree or helping children in washing their hands. It has a complete monitoring and evaluation system, both quantitative and qualitative, and tools which are relevant to AGRA tools. These are the learning outcomes by third-party monitoring report. And teachers, we also do teachers' perception, how they are familiar with the technology, how much they are trained on teaching English or other resources they are already using. We are the winner of TESOL this year award in unpublished pedagogical material. We also won Global Development Network Most Innovative Development Program 2016, and broadcast is documented by UNESCO. DW Global 3000 said that it's a minor revolution in Pakistan, and BBC said that it's the only solution to meet SDGs in Pakistan. This is very cost effective, and due to the public broadcast, its cost decrease with increase in the number of students, which is equivalent to your deal, a movie ticket, or a mobile phone. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fakira. Do we have any questions from the audience? Could you tell us a bit more about the impact it's had on the teachers and their professional development?
Mostly teachers in Pakistan, they have very limited training. So this program helped teacher to get not only 40 hours face-to-face training before the initiation of the program, but during the program, when they receive this broadcast in their actual classrooms, in their actual sitting, it is also continuous teachers' professional development program. So most of the teachers who was not teaching English or who are not doing interactive activities, they think that now they are ready to do this. And they are implementing this methodology not only for radio class, but also in other subject areas and with other grades also. So it is helping them to learn how to design interactive activities with the children, so how to sing rhymes which are relevant to their theme, how to tell a story with expressions and with actions, and how to design classroom into different groups and different settings within their own resources, because mostly we have very limited resources. In some cases, we don't have classrooms where children have to sit. So it helped teacher to design child-centered activities within their own environment.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, can I now invite Access Ed onto the stage, please?
Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm responsible for post-lunch slump here, so I'm going to try and be as loud as I can be, which maybe is not the best engaging strategy to have, but I'm going to go for it. So who are we? We are Access Ed. I'm going to start with our mission and our vision before I tell you what we do. But our mission is to increase access to university for young people from underserved backgrounds globally. Why do we want to do this? A university education can be transformative. We know that graduates have better employment prospects and earning power. They have better health and well-being, and they have better civic engagement. A university education prepares young people to participate in a global economy and global society. We know that universities will play a key role in producing the economic opportunities, the intellectual and human capital that we need to solve the challenges of sustainable development. We know this. We believe at Access Ed, to do this effectively, universities must be open to all young people, regardless of their background. So despite these benefits to individuals and to societies, and I'm going to give away here that I'm an academic and firmly believe in the power of universities, in case I just need to get that out there, we know despite this, inequalities in university access are pervasive in both the developed and the developing world. So across 76 countries for which we have data, 20% of the richest 25 to 29-year-olds complete 4 years of education, compared to 8% of the poorest. Further, in the richest countries, 74% of all young adults are enrolled in higher education, compared to 8% in the poorest countries. So we exist to address this problem. So who are we? Access Ed has been established by the co-founders of the Brilliant Club. The Brilliant Club is an award-winning charity in the UK that exists to support young people from underrepresented backgrounds access highly selective universities. The Brilliant Club does this by mobilizing the PhD community to share its academic expertise with state schools. It's actually really simple. We recruit, train, and pay PhD researchers to deliver university-style teaching that supports pupil learning and achievement. It's also quite scalable. So the Brilliant Club in the UK is now a system-level organisation that works with over 30 leading universities and over 500 schools. We work with about 1 in 10 state schools in the UK. As well as operating at a national scale, the Brilliant Club has credible evidence of impact. In the UK, the average for low-income school leavers progressing to a highly selective university is 11%. That's the average. An evaluation by the University College and Admission Service, UCAS, found that the average for the Brilliant Club is 58%. Further, that evaluation found that the Brilliant Club had a statistically significant impact on the likelihood a pupil will progress to a highly selective university compared to a control group. So we know something about this model is working in the UK. So we want to share it. We want to scale it. We want to go global with this simple, scalable solution. So in order to do this, we at the Brilliant Club have decided to set up a separate organization. So in response to some of the conversations yesterday about how, and today about how, we think it requires a separate, dedicated organization that supports the scaling of Brilliant Club-style programs overseas. That is HundrED. So what are we currently doing? We have run a program in South Africa. We're at the end of a 2-year pilot with 200 young people across Cape Town and Johannesburg. We have run a pilot of the program in Hong Kong. These students went to Hong Kong University last week. We are at the beginning of a 2nd-year pilot in Dublin in a partnership with Trinity College Dublin, working with 20 local schools. And this year, we will support the design and launch of pilots in Botswana and Malaysia. So over the next 5 years, our goal at HundrED is to have a global impact by reaching 15,000 young people a year by 2023. To do this, we need a few things. We were told to say what we need, so here's my bit where I say what I need from all of you in the audience. We need change makers to lead on the design and delivery of pilots of this model. So HundrED runs an incubator. Our answer to scaling is that we work with local implementers to create their own theory of change, to share our expertise on the program model, but ultimately for them to design a program that works for them and their school system. So we need those people. We need people who want to design programs based on the Brilliant Club in the UK so they can apply to our HundrED incubator. We also need global expertise to join and support our network. We want to connect university access professionals globally. There are great organizations in the States, in the UK, in Canada, in India, in Bangladesh, working to solve some similar problems on how do we get high-achieving pupils from low-income backgrounds into university. We want their expertise to share with our partners. And we also need direct support, like all startups. We are a social enterprise. We are committed to being financially sustainable. This means we need £1.6 million to do this in the next 5 years. We are going to do the 1 million ourselves. We need the 0.6. We need support with public relations. so that people know about our network, our program, to apply to our pilot and support our partners. And we specifically need legal help because we, for the first time, are scaling internationally and working in new legal contexts and across borders that raises all kinds of operational issues for a startup that we need pro bono support with. So that is us, and that is what we need. Please join us, find out more, contact us. We are the third innovation in the book, therefore really easy to find, and my email is there. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, great. We're just going to bring you a mic.
Hi, thank you so much for this. Sorry if you explained that and I didn't listen, but what's the actual offer for the 15,000 young people that you're trying to reach?
So they will work with a PhD researcher. So we recruit and train the PhD researchers from universities and we place them in schools. They deliver academic programs to support academic attainment for those young people. So for example, in South Africa, there are wonderful engineers at the University of Wits developing a 5G network. I'm not sure I know what 4G network is, but they're developing a 5G network. So we've recruited them, trained them, and paid them to go into township schools to deliver short academic courses based on that research and that topic, because we believe that supports core academic, cognitive, and non-cognitive skills that support young people to get to university, like written and verbal communication, self-regulation, metacognition, but also understanding what it means to study like a university student and bridge that divide between school and higher education.
So it's a prep stage for university?
Yes.
Okay.
It's to academically prepare them.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, can I now invite Amaze onto the stage, please?
So just press this to be a slide. Okay, and there was 2 videos. Yeah, it should stop automatically. They will? Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Nicole Cheatham, and I'm here to present on Amaze, and we're going to start with a short video that introduces Amaze.
Hey guys, welcome back to our blog. Woo! Yeah, so today I was walking down the street when this dog... what's up with you?
Nothing.
Is it that pimple again?
Yeah, it kind of grew.
Oh man, it can't be that bad. Let me see. Hello.
Okay, guys, listen. All boys go through a changing process called puberty. There are many physical, emotional, and social changes of puberty, and it generally takes 5 to 7 years for all of the changes to be complete. The changes of puberty happen at different times for each person, and there's no right time for these changes to occur. For boys, it generally starts between the ages of 11 to 15. Okay, so the most noticeable physical changes of puberty for boys include getting facial hair, having frequent and at times spontaneous erections, when the penis fills with blood and gets bigger, making sperm, which, when mixed with other fluids, creates semen, which is about a teaspoon of whitish fluid that can be ejaculated out of the penis, possibly experiencing wet dreams, meaning ejaculating semen while sleeping. Normal if it does happen, and normal if it doesn't. And possibly experimenting with masturbation, touching yourself for pleasure. Again, normal if you do, and normal if you don't. Okay guys, here are some additional physical changes of puberty. A growth spurt, during which boys become taller, their shoulders become broader, and their whole body grows larger. Their genitals are growing in size, as their voice is deepening.
How you doing?
Occasional acne. And some slight breast growth is possible as a result of all those hormones. which usually resolves on its own, growing pubic hair around the genitals and hair under the arms. And sweat may now have a strong odor. Why? The purpose of puberty is to allow the body to physically reproduce. This is accomplished by testosterone allowing the testicles to start making sperm, which means when whitish fluid called semen leaves the penis, it now has sperm in it. Now, in addition to the physical changes, there are many emotional changes too. More intense mood swings. Having new sexual feelings for the first time is sometimes called feeling horny. Being interested in other people in a new romantic and/or sexual way, and often feeling like you want more privacy from your parents and even your siblings. Dude, puberty is indeed a challenging process, but hey, you're not alone. Every boy goes through it. So congratulations, you're on your way to becoming a man.
Dibs! Great. Oops. There we go. Well, thank you all for watching. That just gives you an example of what Amaze is all about. It's an initiative that is a collaboration of organizations that are experts in the field of sexuality education and technology, including Advocates for Youth Answer and Youth Tech Health. And we got together a couple of years ago to start building Amaze, actually launched it 2 years ago, to provide answers about growing up, about puberty, about relationships, about personal safety, sexual orientation, and gender identity that is age-appropriate, accurate, fun, positive for adolescents ages 10 to 14. Amaze also provides resources and information for parents and educators. So launched a couple of years ago in the US, it has also since been launched in South Africa and in Mexico. It's a YouTube-based platform that also has a website and other social media platforms. To date, we've released about 68 videos. They usually range in about 3 minutes each and have about 16 million views and 80,000 subscribers. And there's some numbers on about the other social platforms as well. The content that's covered, puberty, healthy relationships, pregnancy, reproduction, STIs and HIV, sexual orientation and gender identity. And these topics, in terms of how we came to determine what topics to cover through the videos, they're informed by technical guidance on sexuality education and experts. They're also informed by very young adolescents themselves, as well as parents and teachers. Initially, before we launched Amaze, we didn't necessarily know it would be something that lived on YouTube, for example, and it was through advisory groups of very young adolescents themselves that it became quite apparent that that's where they were and that's where we needed to be. It may not be the case in 5 years, but right now, that's where we are. In terms of the steps for the video production process, the very first step is the development of a content brief that the sexuality education experts develop that includes educational objectives, just like you would put in a lesson plan, for example, key messages, background information, and this then informs the script that the animators and the video production companies that we partner with produce to develop the video. This is followed by a storyboard, which is the script with the visuals, and then finally voice, music, and the mixing of all of that into an actual animated video, followed by dissemination. And throughout all of this process, there's ongoing feedback to make sure that the videos are the best that they can be in terms of content, but also in terms of tone. We're very particular about having a positive tone and some humor. We also work closely with parents and educators, and so there's background information for each video on amaze.org on the website. There's background information geared to adolescents themselves, geared to parents, and geared to educators. And as far as educators are concerned, we'll include lesson plans from a 3 R's curriculum that Advocates for Youth has produced, which is a comprehensive, inclusive K-12 curriculum that's being used by some schools and school districts in the US. So if there's a related lesson plan to the video topic, we're putting those there for educators. It's also available in Spanish. And then we're creating some lesson plans that are specific to the videos because people seem to want to have that as well. For parents, there's conversation starters and videos directed to parents on how to have these conversations with their kids. This is just a quick snapshot of the Amaze.org page. Like if you do click on educators, so there's suggested discussion questions and then sample lesson plans that from various sources. So we've had the opportunity to do a little bit of evaluation on Amaze so far, 2 years in. And we compared very young adolescents who viewed Amaze videos versus those who did not, and found that there was more knowledge, for example, about consent and sexual assault after viewing an Amaze video among adolescents than those who did not view the videos. We also observed that there was a more accepting attitude around diverse sexual orientations among those who had viewed Amaze videos versus those who had not. And we also had self-reporting of increased knowledge among adolescents for those who had viewed the videos. And finally, 40% of those who viewed the videos said that they would recommend and share the YouTube channel with others. So we have, I mentioned that we had launched in South Africa and Latin America. We have sort of a couple of strategies, a regional one that's proactive and intentional, where we're working with partners in Latin America and East and Southern Africa to adapt Amaze videos and disseminate them at the regional level. We also have videos that are being subtitled, others that are being dubbed, and this is organic, so organizations from various countries are reaching out to us and they want to dub Amaze videos or subtitle them, and so then we facilitate that process and provide all of the necessary scripts or video files that you would need to be able to do that. It's open, it's public domain, Creative Commons license, so the whole purpose of this is for it to be accessible and available. So there's, for example, some of the countries that have reached out to us, groups within these countries, usually NGOs, that are South Korea has dubbed about 20 of the videos so far. We only have produced 60-some, so. And we're open to continuing that. So I would just welcome you all to consider a partnership. If there's any interest in Amaze, we're open to partnerships and collaborations in all different shapes and sizes, whether it's subtitling or dubbing or dissemination or adaptations, and to help spread the word about this resource. And with that, I think I had one more video. But that's, nope, oops, how do we go back? And that's okay, that's fine. So that is just a quick overview of Amaze, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes.
How many schools how many schools use these videos? Do you know, have your resources got into schools, or is it mostly like teenagers accessing them at home and watching on YouTube and subscribing that way?
Yeah, it's a mix. So the metrics from those are the easiest for us to follow, like 16 million views and so on. The schools, I don't have the number on the top of my head, but it's quite a number of schools across the U.S. And in Latin America, although it will be launched in the new year. For example, we're working with the International Planned Parenthood Federation affiliate there in Uruguay, who's collaborating with the Ministry of Education, and there they've adapted about 15, they'll have finished adapting about 15 Amaze videos that's integrated into the national curriculum. So I can't tell you how many schools that will impact right now, but this is like the dream story, but we're hopeful that others might want to do something similar, but it really doesn't matter how they get out there. But yeah, so
that's amazing.
We should start counting more. Yeah.
How are you choosing which countries you expand into, or what are the barriers that are preventing you from expanding into other countries?
So the proactive strategy of East and Southern Africa and Latin America was just those regions we wanted to prioritize, but we don't really select countries otherwise. We just answer when they call or email. And of course, there's a certain quality check because the information is based on a core set of values of accurate and complete information, of inclusive information, of positive information. But basically, we're responding as groups contact us from different countries. So we don't have a priority list of countries beyond where we are at the moment, or there's no restrictive list either. Yeah.
I was just curious whether you've engaged young people in creating the videos, and then also how to ensure that they're culturally appropriate depending on the context.
Yes. Right, that's a great question. So we had advisory boards of very young adolescents that informed from the very beginning and even helped determine the platform where the videos would be. And they also participated by reviewing storyboards, not so much the scripts, but the storyboards where you have the pictures too, to give a sense of whether they thought this was good or not good. And it's really great to get that feedback. For example, it wasn't this puberty video, but another one about boys also. One of the bits of information, there was reference to, an ejaculation being about a teaspoon. And that it had a picture of the queen with having tea. And some of the feedback there was, is that I wanted that little bit of information that it's about a teaspoon was really important to me. So things like that. In terms of adaptations and cultural adaptation of the videos, so we're working in partnership with local organizations to make those adaptations. So in Latin America, with International Planned Parenthood Federation of the Western Hemisphere, they work with their member associates in each country, so Mexico, Colombia, and Uruguay at the moment, where they have done focus groups, for example, with a lot of very young adolescents, and they're also checking with parents and teachers to get information about when they view the US version, what do they want changed, and then also to give feedback once they create adaptations and or their own new videos. I forgot to mention that some of our partners are creating their own new videos from scratch as well.
First of all, I wanted to thank you. This is amazing. I wanted to ask, speaking of the Queen, I'm wondering about the difficulties, and once you do something good and it scales, people who were against it, conservative ideas, anything of that sort.
Yeah. We're used to a lot of controversy at my organization because it is all about sexuality and sexual health. So far with Amaze, we haven't had major pushback, but I'm sure it's going to come soon. But I think so. We may need to sort of explore that more and incorporate advocacy components to the work. But we definitely try to make sure that we're addressing also parents and teachers within the work that we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Nicole, and for all of the interesting questions. Can I now have Betty for Schools on stage, please?
Hi, I'm Becky Hipkiss. I'm the Head of Education at Betty for Schools, and this is Amanda, who's the Head of Marketing at It's a Monthly Thing, which is our parent company. So following on from Nicole's presentation, this actually fits in really, really well. So we're all about the girls' side of puberty, in particular periods. So we're Betty. Betty is a teenage brand supporting girls all the way up to adulthood, providing that kind of support and knowledge they need, especially when it comes to starting their period, because we all know that can be quite a stressful time. But we know that breaking the period taboo all starts with education. So that's where Betty for Schools came in. Sorry, got my notes. So Betty for Schools, we really kind of knew from the start that there was a real need for some new period education in the UK in particular, just because when we spoke to teachers when we were first talking about starting the programme, some of them were using the resources that they had been taught with, which, if you think about it, is absolutely crazy, because that's 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So there was a real kind of opportunity for us to kind of launch some really exciting, cool, innovative resources that kind of tackle the subject head on. With our resources, we empower teachers to kickstart the period conversation in their classroom, and it's mostly based around online resources and interactive films, just to make sure they're as flexible as possible. So far, they've been downloaded over 60,000 times since we launched in March 2017. That's actually quite an old stat, so I probably should have updated that. It's probably more, maybe say 100,000. And we also have 8,000 registrants in the UK and are used in over 4,500 schools so far. So we just thought we'd give you a little snapshot of our resources and with a short video.
Hi, I'm Connor.
Hey, I'm Esther.
And I'm Alison. And we're talking about that time of the month. Don't worry. If you have any questions along the way, there are loads of people who can answer them. People just like you and me.
So we have a variety of resources at Betty for Schools, and one of the key things we needed to do was create a set of resources that allowed teachers to be able to deliver their lessons effectively in the classroom. So through our research, we know that teachers don't like teaching this in the classroom and are embarrassed to do so. They're also not trained to deliver this in the classroom. It tends to fall to one of the most junior members of staff or the intern to deliver this, which means the lessons are never delivered in the way that kids need them to be delivered in the classroom. So we found out through our surveys that 98% of the teachers would use these Betty for Schools resources again, which is fantastic. Our films are designed in a really nice casual tone of voice. So just like Amaze was saying, we need to keep it really friendly, really fun, really engaging, so that students are being taught periods in the way they want to be taught and are being told the things that they want to be told. Our animations are a mixture of the biological aspect of periods, but also the empathetic side of periods and how periods and hormones affect girls, how they can control that, how they can manage that. It's also really important for us to talk to the boys, so boys aren't necessarily taught directly about periods themselves, and this causes confusion. And also, if boys aren't understanding what girls are going through, that's when they tend to kind of make fun of the girls, and then that really starts to affect their confidence. So it's all about trying to make everyone feel as normal as possible when they're talking about the period. To keep it fun and engaging, we have a mixture of quizzes and activities. These run throughout the resources. We've also got a section called Ask Me Anything, which allows students to ask any questions they want, or a variety of questions, which can then be answered by someone of their choosing online. So they might have a question about what age should I expect to start my period, and then they can choose someone that they feel is relevant to them to answer that question. We've also got a mixture of offline resources. So when we launched Betty for Schools, it was really for the teachers and for the students. But then we also found out that parents know nothing about periods either. So that conversation wasn't being had at home. Parents, see someone cringing already, parents don't like having that conversation with their daughter or their son at home. So we've created some more resources for parents, and we also have them all available online so they can download them, get themselves clued up on the topic of periods, and will help them deliver or have that conversation at home. We also have different toilet takeover posters and other items throughout the schools. We have a website called Betty.me, which have a lot more information about periods and other areas of puberty. So there's always a space for students to be able to go and find the answers they need. Me as well. Okay, sorry, this is our Parents Hub. So actually throughout, once we started delivering these resources, we found out that really parents were not knowing what periods were. So we actually created a dedicated space for parents to go to. So that you can see here we've got a lot of articles for them to go and ask their own questions, which has been really, really popular and is actually ever expanding as well.
Yeah, so that's just a bit of a snapshot of our offline and online resources. As Amanda was saying, it's actually quite hard to talk about periods in the classroom. It's a bit awkward. You don't really want to ask your teacher why suddenly this gush of blood's coming out your vagina. So we decided to launch some experiential workshops. So we wanted to take it out of the classroom and make them just feel really, really comfortable with our Betty facilitators. So we've been going around schools, we've been at education events, we even got a partnership with Girl Guiding going. So we are on a mission to break that taboo by travelling around the UK with our bright yellow bus, which you can just see there on the screen. It just means that it's open and honest conversations, it takes them out of their comfort zone and it makes it fun. So for instance, one of the first things we do with the girls is we put them all in pink t-shirts, because they're exactly the same, and we get them to shout period as loud as we can. Would you like to try it? It's really exciting. So after 3, just shout period as loud as you can. 1, 2, 3. Period! See, it's hilarious. And all the girls just get so embarrassed and like, oh, and then by the time they've shouted it like 4 times, it's all good and they can ask loads of open-ended questions. So our trained facilitators, they all don like bright pink jackets with a B on it, and they help the girls. This is the only part of our resources where we actually split the girls and the boys, just because I think girls do need that safe space to ask the questions that they need to ask. So some of the facilitators take the girls and explain how periods can affect their emotions and what they can do to combat them, whereas the boys have a separate session which is led by male facilitators, again breaking that taboo. It's completely normal, why would we not talk about periods, focusing on their attitude and understanding, so just making sure that they're aware of what the girls in their class may be going through and actually maybe just asking if they're okay, or if a tampon falls out of the bag, maybe not like pointing it out and laughing about it and actually saying, oh, here you go, quick, you just like dropped it. So it's really exciting, and we've got loads of impact stats. So we launched in March 2017 and within a month we had about 500 requests for our bus. We were a bit like, can't quite get around that, but it's just been really exciting. So 69% of the girls that did our workshop felt less scared or worried about getting their periods, and over 97% of teachers said that they would recommend it, and also that the girls found it engaging as well. And we've been spreading the word. All my notes, sorry. So we've been featured in a range of national and local educational media, and we've also attended all the education events, as you can see up there, and you can see some of our facilitators and the girls at Girl Guiding at the top. And we've also won a host of awards. I think we're on number 8 now, which is really exciting, just because for us that just means that more and more people are spreading the word and hearing about us. In terms of marketing, that's one of the things we really want to improve on, and kind of this is why this is so important, the HundrED Global, because at the minute we're very, very reliant on the educational events and also word of mouth. Teachers love to chat, don't they? They find an innovation or a program and they love it and they pass it on. So we've been very lucky in that aspect that it's been popular and passed on. So what's next on our Betty journey? So this is where you guys come in, hopefully. I'm already eyeing up Nicole from Amaze for some help. We want to continue to break that period taboo and push period education to the forefront of the curriculum in 2019. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but the UK PSHE is becoming compulsory next year, which is incredible that it wasn't compulsory before, but great. And we're also aiming to scale up our program just to kind of reach more teachers, more students, make it accessible for more countries. So at the minute we're kind of UK based, but we know our resources would work really, really well in other countries. And also increasing our offering. So very similar to Access before, kind of adding the subtitles to our videos, kind of making the workshops that we do accessible in all areas of the classroom, so maybe giving guidance to the teachers on how they could run those workshops in-house, or maybe getting more buses. That'd be quite cool. So yeah, there's lots of ways for you to join us on our mission. It's completely free to register at bettyforschools.co.uk. I'm currently doing live tweeting on the Twitter, so do give me a shout out and I'll retweet. And yeah, you can contact me for more information and get involved, because that would be amazing. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you so much. It was really great. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Oh, great.
I'm just curious if you have any strategy around your expansion. Are you targeting certain continents or certain countries to begin with, or is it just whoever approaches you?
At the moment, it's a little bit whoever approaches us, just so we can see where the interest is. Always one of our key areas has been the US. So the US has always been in our minds, and we're just about ramping up, ready to try and approach that market. Another interesting market has been China. So China has also approached us, and we've got some opportunities, international schools over there, but they're very keen to use us. And then India, so there's a big topic of conversation around periods at the moment in India, and also in South Africa. So we've been working, as Becky mentioned, with Girl Guides in the UK, but also the World Association of Girl Guides as well, who want to use and develop our resources across the globe.
Thank you both. That was really interesting. Can I just ask, what's the financial model behind this?
So Betty is part of a privately owned company, and this is our education CSR branch of that company. So we are privately funded, but we're kind of breaking away a little bit, and we want to try and develop the funding model so that we can scale this up even further across the world.
Great, thank you so much. I'd now like to invite Brock on the stage, please.
The green one. Great, yeah, thanks. Just checking for the presentation. Oh, I'm doing it. I was like, are you gonna put it up? All right, it's all one presentation. Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Devin, and I work for BRAC. And like I did yesterday, I'm gonna speak a bit more about our Playful Learning Centers for Refugees in Cox's Bazar. Hi, Nicole. So a little bit of context first. As I was saying, last year in August of 2017, violence erupted in Myanmar, forcing about 700,000 refugees across the border into Bangladesh, where they joined 300,000 refugees that had been there previously from former waves of migration. And so if you look at that image there on the left, it reflects about the population of Washington, D.C., and the majority of these refugees are children. And something that is important to note about this community, the Rohingya community in particular, is that they were very marginalized within the context of Myanmar. And so even if they were able to make it into a classroom, they often were ignored by their teachers. And so most of these children have never had an opportunity to learn before arriving in Bangladesh. So a little bit about BRAC, if you don't know who we are one of the largest NGOs in the world, and we're unique in our space because we were born out of the global south. We actually started in Bangladesh in the 1970s, interestingly, initially as a relief and rehabilitation program, and then that expanded into becoming a multi-sectoral organization where where we work in microfinance, health, women's empowerment, education. To date, we've graduated more than 11 million children from our pre-primary and primary schools around the world. So BRAC, or Bangladesh, is BRAC's home, and we already had many staff in the area in Cox's Bazar, and they were among the very first who received the refugees as they were fleeing across the river from Myanmar. So the PlayLab model is one innovation that we developed in partnership with the Lego Foundation, and I'm presenting it here because this is actually the model that we adapted and contextualized for the Rohingya refugee context. So it is, we're delivering this model in 3 countries, in Bangladesh, Tanzania, and Uganda, and it's for children aged 3 to 5. It's an early learning program, and the idea is to deliver low-cost, high-quality play-based learning for children in low-resource settings. And to date, in the more stable environments, we've reached about 40,000 children in the last 2.5 years. And we're also implementing them in Liberia. And the focus of it is to promote social emotional learning, improvements in self-regulation, and improvements around building friendships and social relationships and adult and child interaction. And we also have a very unique approach to measuring playfulness in children. So that's the model that we took to Cox's Bazar. And I think one of the key takeaways from some of the talks that we've been hearing today and yesterday. So for example, when Oliver was speaking earlier about his experience with Skateistan, how he really wanted to focus on listening to the kids, that's exactly what we did when we went into Cox's Bazar. We wanted to contextualize the approach. We also wanted to reach a broader audience of children, so expanding this model up from age 3 all the way to 14. And we listened to the kids about what play meant to them, what they valued in terms of learning, what they wanted to learn, and we started developing the curriculum and the daily routine around their feedback, basically. And so it's quite interesting. If you walk into a play lab anywhere in the world, the type of play will vary kind of dramatically. In Bangladesh, we often see that there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of art. If you walk into a play lab in Tanzania, you'll see music and drums and instruments. And then what we've seen in Cox's Bazar is that the children are really quite physically nimble. They do a lot of leapfrog games. The times that I've visited the centers, I'll see 6 children creating a human elephant and walking around the whole room, which is kind of hard to imagine, but I have a video if you want to see it later. And they're also, their fine motor skills are incredibly developed. They're excellent artists. So we do a lot of artwork and art-based kind of therapy with them in the centers themselves. So this is just a little bit of background on how many learning centers and child-friendly spaces we have. Initially, when we went into Cox's Bazar, it was an emergency response. So we just wanted to create safe spaces where kids could go and get a sense of routine and feel comfortable and allow them to have a little bit of their childhood back. But eventually, we realized that this is going to be a protracted, long-term response, and that's when we ramped up the actual learning centers and rolling out a curriculum that was targeting them for primary education, always using a child-centered and playful approach. So that's the plan moving forward, is that we are going to extend the curriculum up to grade 8. And then we'll see if we need to go beyond that, depending on how protracted the crisis becomes. A couple of other things that are interesting about the model in Cox's Bazar and how we focused on contextualizing it for this community is that we really wanted to bring their heritage into the space. So the spatial design of the play labs is a really important feature. We think that the space itself can be quite conducive to learning. And so what we did is we designed the interiors to look like their homes back in Myanmar so that they would feel comfortable walking into the space. It would feel familiar. The other thing that I mentioned yesterday during my 3-minute pitch is that we pair 2 women, 2 teachers who we call play leaders. One is from the host community in Cox's Bazar, and one is from the Rohingya community. And part of the reason that we do this is to build cross-cultural understanding, to promote tolerance and unity and understanding between these 2 communities, because we've seen that tensions have been rising a bit because of competition for resources. I mean, these refugees landed in the most marginalized, poor region of Bangladesh. And so it's been very challenging in that regard, and I'll touch on the host communities a bit more in just a minute. The other thing that we do that's a bit different from the Play Lab model in Cox's Bazar is we're more focused on providing holistic support to these kids. So linking them to other services that BRAC provides, like our healthcare services. We have several hundred counselors who go into the homes, and they also visit the centers in order to provide counseling and psychosocial support to the kids. So yes, I said I was going to talk about the host community. So one thing that the government of Bangladesh has determined recently is that at least a minimum of 25% of resources that come into the country to go to Cox's Bazar needs to be invested in the host community's development. BRAC actually kind of we basically started doing that initially already because we recognized the tensions that were arising, and we were already in that community in the first place. But we did have to ramp up a lot of our efforts. So we direct about 30% of our resources towards the host communities. And the curriculum itself in the host communities has been adapted a bit, again, to promote the sense of tolerance and understanding and, caring for the other, and just to try to do what we can to do very kind of localized peace building and people-to-people peace building. So this is, I just got a lot louder, sorry. So you can see some of the numbers here. We're planning on expanding to about 500 learning centers in the host community in 2019. So we are scaling significantly in the coming years. And then I mentioned child protection, I guess, briefly as one of the linkages. As you can imagine, in refugee camps, children are incredibly vulnerable. There's been a lot of issues with child trafficking out of the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar. And so we spend a lot of time working with parents around child protection measures. And we really think that this is an area where the education community can do a better job of interacting with the child protection community to make sure that we're mutually reinforcing each other with messaging. So I touched on the political landscape a bit. It's been a bit challenging between the 2 governments. There's a lot of conversations about whether or not the Rohingya refugees will be repatriated. We personally, I guess at BRAC, are assuming that that's very unlikely, and accordingly are planning for a long-term response, which is the reason why we're rolling out a much kind of more robust education program in the camps. One thing that's been interesting is the issue of language of instruction. It's often really political, and so the government of Bangladesh is not allowing us to teach the children in Bengali, the predominant language in Bangladesh. Fortunately, the local dialect in Cox's Bazar is very similar to the Rohingya language. It's about an 80% overlap. So at least, the teachers can communicate with one another really easily and understand pretty well. But it's been, that's been one of the kind of more tense issues that I think that we've faced, is really dealing with how to address the language of instruction issue. So we're currently actually teaching them English. That's one, the British Council is working with BRAC and HundrED to help develop the curriculum for the broader camps beyond the ones that we're just running. And so they'll be learning English. They're also learning Burmese, and in the spoken script of Rohingya is kind of the operational language that they use in the classroom. So what's next? This is kind of, I guess, where we come to our ask. education and emergency programs are not things that you ideally want to scale, right? That means that there are more emergencies. But what we do want to do is develop a model, a playful learning model that we can, that can be flexible, easily contextualized, and can be replicated elsewhere. And so we're actually looking for expertise. This is one of BRAC's first real big forays into education and emergencies. And so we're looking for support, external researchers who have done this kind of work before, who can help us with developing the evidence base, who can help us with integrating child protection measures into the curriculum, who can support the vital curriculum needs that you would need in this situation. I mean, we're learning as we go, and we're being very consultative, but that's one area that where we could use support. And then, of course, funding. We're reaching, the amount of kids that we're reaching is a drop in the bucket. As you saw in the beginning, there's nearly 500,000 kids total in the whole Rohingya population, and BRAC is currently reaching, 28,000 through the learning centers, and we're hoping to expand that to more. But so yeah, that's where we are for now, and I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. That was such an interesting topic to talk about, and it's really great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, thank you. Can you pass the mic?
Thanks.
I just had a question more about the next steps in terms of transitioning from camps to, I know that's a little separate from your presentation, but I'm just curious what's BRAC's role in thinking about moving to more permanent housing, or what that looks like.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. For now, we are kind of towing the line of what the government is mandating and what the UN agencies are kind of structuring for us. We've tried to, I think a huge reason why BRAC has been successful for decades is that we've managed to stay kind of below the political fray, and so we don't try to get too caught up in advocacy. So if there are other people in the room who would like to help advocate, we're always looking for that kind of support, actually. There are no long-term plans to relocate them outside of the camps. There are some, frankly, odd plans to potentially move camps to a different area, but it would still be a camp setting. It wouldn't be like what you see in Lebanon, where there are Syrian refugees living within urban spaces. They won't be allowed to leave these kind of confined refugee camps, at least in the near future. But BRAC is providing a lot of support with the shelter. When we first entered the space, we were one of the first responders. We were responsible for building, Sarah, I don't know if you'd know the answer to this, but I think hundreds, thousands of latrines. We delivered water to more than 800,000 people. We supported a lot of the buildings of homes and shelters and things like that. Just one more question.
I just wonder if you could say a little bit about the measurements for playfulness. And maybe I'm very inspired by the idea of playfulness in general. And we've got a lot of populations in the US that are traumatized, even if they're not in a refugee situation. And in those situations, it's often about just meeting bare minimum requirements. It's not an inspired vision around playful-based learning. So if you could just say a little bit more about that, it'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So in the Play Lab model, which is in the more stable environments right now, we have a pretty rigorous ongoing study that I believe we're just now collecting the end-line data of the first year of this pilot study. And one of the tools that we're using is a tool that we developed for the purpose of that project. And we validated it in those three contexts, so in Bangladesh, Uganda, and Tanzania. I'm happy to share the tool with you. We have an interesting feature of the Play Lab project, the one that's funded by the Lego Foundation, is that we have a group of international experts that we call the Play Consortium. And so we have academics from Cambridge University, Columbia University, and others who have helped us develop the Play curriculum and our measurement tools for the different outcomes that we're looking for. So we have an expert in learning through play from Cambridge University who helped us design the tool for how one would measure playfulness. And it's the most challenging thing that we've had is training the teachers in how to understand what playfulness looks like, because in these contexts, it's sort of a new concept to be promoting, to promote the idea of these children playing. In a lot of these contexts, it's more valued to have children just sit and be quiet and obey, and the rote learning model. So that's been a really interesting piece of the project, I would say. But I'd be more than happy to share the tool with you or with anybody. They're all going to be open source, and we're currently developing a package for the Play Lab model itself that will be easily kind of distributed to others who want to adopt it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I imagine that a lot of the children may be traumatized by their experiences. Is there a therapeutic element to the play?
Yes, definitely. Well, yes, play in itself has been proven to be quite therapeutic, and we're also using a lot of the artwork, as I mentioned. But one of the key components of the project is incorporating psychosocial support counselors into the work. And so we train the teachers to an extent to be able to identify cases of severe trauma or depression in the children, and even in the mothers and family members. I mean, it's not limited to the kids, of course. And so they then are trained to contact the counselor who can come and pay home visits or do separate sessions with that child or children in the centers themselves. So it's been a key feature of the model. BRAC has its own university in Dhaka, and within the university we have an Institute for Educational Development where we have a number of developmental psychologists who are all really well trained in this area, and they're the experts that are overseeing all of that work and conducting the training. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause. Okay, can I now have challenge 59 on stage, please?
Hi. I guess some of you heard me yesterday, so I'm not going to go into too much about why it is what we do. But it came from McDonald's. They promised to serve you. At the time, I was working in targeted health interventions where teenage pregnancy was an issue, antisocial behaviour. The local primary care trust, all they could do was put out condoms and buckets on this field. And that was it. That was kind of, there was no prevention. And I was looking at statistics, and they were saying that just £1 spent on a health promotion campaign within a school can save the National Health Service 15. So it started in one of the most deprived wards in the UK, and I revived it in 2017, just last year, in 2 boroughs of London, so Newham and Tower Hamlets, as 2 of the kind of boroughs where there's quite vast child health inequalities. Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about the problems. I think we're all aware, but these are all very local problems and UK problems. Physical inactivity now contributes to 1 in 10 deaths in the UK. Obesity levels in the boroughs that we were working in, 1 in 3 children are obese by the time they're 11. Mental health issues, 1 in 4 for children by the age of 11. Social interaction, just that it's changing. You know, the average 6-year-old now spends 6.5 hours a day on media on a screen at 6 years old. The way we interact is changing, and it's affecting children's mental health. The UK came 14th of 15 countries in a survey about child happiness and emotional well-being. Population growth, I was reading the other day that in some London boroughs especially, population growth of young people under 18 is going to grow by 27% in some of the boroughs. Disposable income is decreasing. Children, if they don't get access to artistic and cultural activities in school, never will. Some of them never leave their high street, never leave their borough. And the future workforce, just that we're not equipping children with the skills that will be required, that may be required in the future. We do this, we offer dance residencies, so we take artists into schools to deliver dance residencies based on psychosocial health. We also have resources, we have a creative scheme of work. We have 59-second dances that they can do as kind of to wake up their brains a little bit. And then we have a film toolkit as well, and we take a film crew into the school and we ask the children to storyboard issues, local health issues as a school and as a class. And then we go in and we have a working panel made up of multi-stakeholders, and they choose kind of the storyboards that we're going to make based on the health issues in that area. So yeah, we co-produce their films. I'll show you some of their films today. It is their work. I couldn't possibly come up with some of the ideas that come out of their head. And then, as I said, we offer teacher training and resources, just recognising that if this is sustainable, it's better to train the teacher. So when we do go in with an artist, they're asked to be alongside us the whole time. We have first point of contact with them in November this year, and we stayed through to July with a film premiere at the end. We managed to get Sir Ken Robinson, and we're really fortunate that he felt really passionate about this project, and he wrote a foreword in our teacher resources. So I'm not going to read it out, but I'll just give you a few seconds. Dance also, interesting, in the UK sits in sport in the primary school curriculum. But I think there's something about the embodiment of dance and the creative processes and the creativity behind the messages, which we feel is really important and different to what sport can also offer. This is how we break down our work in our resources. We have thinking, feeling, relating and being. So thinking is the mental health, feeling emotional, relating our social health, and being is spiritual health, which we look at children's values and individuality and how we also can come together as a cohesive community, even though we're all very diverse. This is we commissioned an academic report about Challenge 59, and these are some of the outcomes, the issues that the children brought up based on their health issues. So the risks of screen time. We did work with year ones. We never intended to work with year ones, but this is the schools wanted us to work with year ones. So we did work with 5 and 6-year-olds, and their film was about the risks of screen time. Healthy eating, being active, inequality came up a lot within conversations with the children. Lack of open spaces, many of them live in a high-rise block of flats. No access to open spaces, no communal areas where there's a sense of neighbourhood. There's a real sense that the importance of free play that they didn't get at home, and that's what they liked about school. Coming into the school playground, going into the school hall because they were able to run around and be physically active. Creativity, 79% of children after the project said that they wanted more opportunities to be creative and to be artistic. Sense of community was a big one, and mental health. So I'm going to show you some of their films. This is the year one, so they're 5 and 6 years old, and it was called No More Screen Time. Bear in mind, this is storyboarded by them. They are year one, so when we got the storyboards through, I was like, what's that picture? So we had to talk to them a lot along the way. Is this your idea? Are we sure? Is this representing what you really want us to say? But yeah, this is their film. They storyboarded it. They came up with the soundtrack, everything. $59, done. I should have said don't blink, you'll miss something. The next one is, it was a high school that we worked with years ago, and their film was called Evil Nicotine, and it was actually a group of year 7 and 8s who felt intimidated by the year 11s who smoked in the bike sheds, and they tried to like peer pressure get them to try smoking. So it's called Evil Nicotine. Evil Nicotine is the character, is a boy. So you're following Evil Nicotine around the room, around the school. We spread Marmite all over school walls. We closed down corridors, said no access, you can't go around here for the afternoon. We caused a bit of trouble in the schools, but it's that sense of, wow, a film crew in with us, and there's an artistic team with us this week. So yeah, Evil Nicotine. The reds were oxygenated blood, and the reds were deoxygenated blood, and the blues were oxygenated. They had very clear beliefs about what should be what. That boy's called Corey, and his dad stopped smoking after watching that film. The day of the premiere, he put his cigarettes in the bin, and the school reported he hadn't picked up another one since. So one boy brought quite a powerful message. I'm going to move on. So I think what's incredible about the project for me is what the teachers do with it. Like we go in, we give them that kind of project-based learning. This is a project, but what they managed to wrap around the project was incredible. Some of the young people took it to Youth Parliament, shared their films in Youth Parliament. They got shown, one of the primary care trusts wanted to show them in doctors' waiting rooms and in hospitals. They went alongside one of the Public Health England members and went to speak at a National Healthy Schools conference as an ambassador. Just this small, talking at a big conference, didn't faze them at all. They managed to they did a lot of literacy work. I couldn't get the press in, but they could get the local press in because they wrote their own press releases about it. One of the teachers, he had a year 6 class. He made them get into small groups, and they had to go and share the films with the whole school, so every class in the whole school, but also another partner school in the local area. So he made them budget for their own lesson plans if they needed any resources for healthy living. I think they asked for like a smoothie maker, a blender. Like they had to budget for everything in maths. They really did like wrap around with artwork. They did name posters. And yeah, just to see the power of the teacher in empowering what could they do with this project. And I think it's the fact that it's real to them and it's their ideas. So by using the creative processes and trying to deepen their engagement, if they have ownership of it, they're going to engage in a much deeper way. You'll see that we don't use like our voice at all. It's non-verbal. It's all movement in the body and how we can send messages with movement. This is part of our resources. We designed this reflective wheel because we recognise that where reflection is attentive and regular process, it can actually help with mental and with our thinking and our feeling. So after every session, we ask the children to fill in this circle, and we can do it individually or in groups. We can facilitate it however the teacher best feels appropriate. Thinking, we ask them to show us something that they learnt today or a thought that they had in the session. Feeling, we asked them to comment on what they felt before they came into the room, how they felt during or how they felt afterwards, or one of those things. Relating, how they related to each other in the dance lesson that they might not necessarily do elsewhere in the day, in the school day or at home. And being, we asked them to comment on a goal or a target or something about themselves, which I'll share with you in a minute. We asked them to sum up Challenge 59 in one word. These were some of the words. And I think, as well as asking the children to be reflective, we have a 6-minute documentary on our website, and we interview the teachers and the children. And one of the teachers just said, it's made me as a practitioner really reflective. I've reflected on my whole teaching practice. Am I doing this? Can I do this in a better way? Is it all about talk and chalk? Can we get up and move around more? Can I change how my teaching practice? And it's really empowered her to change across the whole school and to filter that in within other teachers as well. Our academic report showed us that 94% of children felt more confident after Challenge 59. Overcoming apprehensions, they felt calmer, more resilient. I think one of the words was more successful. There was a really high increase in the amount of children who wanted to try new things that they'd never tried before. Enjoyment of school, there was an increase in how many children were actually enjoying going to school after the project. And as I said, 79% wanted more access to creativity. This is just something that a teacher has said to us in the past. And I think really importantly what the children have to say. I felt really lucky to be here and be as good as I never knew I could be. This second one was a 5-year-old boy, and I just couldn't believe it when he said it. The dance lesson made me remember who I am, and I can be myself more when I exercise. This is a boy who hadn't spoken to his teacher. They thought he was like a mute, an elective mute. He didn't speak to staff. And yet at the end, when we asked to share reflections, that's what he said. Today I learned that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. I think that was a girl. And I don't know how to explain it, but I feel really ready and alive now. I feel like I could do a whole day and do anything. That's us. I haven't spent very long, I don't think at all, but I kind of didn't want to on purpose because I want to get to that nugget of like how. We are so small. We've worked in 3 schools this year. We worked with a 4th school because we co-designed the resources with a school and with a teacher, as opposed to it being something that we do for a school. We wanted to design it by and with the teachers. So yeah, I kind of want to hand it over to you, and it's fine if you don't have anything to say right now, but you can catch me. But how do we do this? This is where we're at. It's me as a sole trader at the moment, and I work with Silka as project manager when I have funding. Last year I managed to secure £68,000 to offer this as a fully entitled project for free. But that's not sustainable, and we do want to scale this, and we're talking to some health partners at the moment about working in more London schools at the moment. But we have got interest in the southwest of England and other regions in England as well. But yeah, that's where we're at. We're a very small team. This is what we do. And if there's any thoughts about how we might grow this, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
Are there any questions? Okay, great.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. That was really great to hear the kind of child-centered approach and the way you do your evaluation as well. I guess the Brilliant Club works with lots of schools in the UK, but started with 1 and 12 kids and then scaled that to 10,000 kids a year. And I think a really important aspect of doing that was to make sure that it was, well, the funding model for sure, and what that looks like. So schools contribute to that model. So the space that might exist within pupil premium budgets or other policy quirks for schools to contribute to the model. But also that it is replicable across schools. And I don't know about a model that requires quite intensive teacher input to make it bespoke to that school. I mean, that sounds like what makes it wonderful, but how then you replicate that in terms of human resources, because that requires a lot of staff time and input. There might be other organizations, I guess, that you can reach out to, but definitely get in touch with us at the Brilliant Club. We'd be happy to put you in touch with other schools that we work with, and yeah, to learn and share together. So I know we both are from London, but have met in Helsinki, but I guess that's what HundrED is about.
Yeah, thank you. We do have all of our resources as a digital access for teachers. So once they've had a first point of contact and a training with us, they can access our resources online just through a password. But yeah, thank you for your thoughts, and I'll be in touch.
There's an organization in the US called Playworks that it's similar, not the same, but part of their revenue model is similar to what you were saying. Districts or schools will purchase sort of the package, and it's really like training and professional development for teachers, or what we call gym teachers, or sometimes it's just like teachers' aides that might do physical education so that they learn how to do it. So it can be sustained because it lives in the building without someone else coming from the outside, but they pay to be able to be trained. And that's where I think they bring in a lot of their revenue. They also fundraise, but it's sort of a mixed model of revenue generation that you may want to look at.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some kind of like train the trainer thing that might happen. And here we're talking to CCGs, so like clinical commissioning groups. I'm trying to go in on a more health route, and who have a multi-layered approach. So, I mean, my thing is that I don't want it to be secular, just the dance world. We've managed to galvanise like health, education, digital partners, like dance partners, and I think that's really important within a local community that you have that variety of stakeholders. But yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, and for your thoughtful comments. Thank you. I'd like to invite. Can I have community share on the stage with me, please?
So I think I'm going to change things up a little bit just because it's getting late in the afternoon, and you guys, some of you heard me yesterday. So I actually wanted to ask you all, if you were going to go into a school tomorrow, what would be one skill or experience that you would share with a student or a teacher? So I'm actually going to put you on the spot. So where shall we start? You look pretty excited about it, so you can have my, here you go.
I'm a historian, and I spent 15 years doing that, so I feel pretty passionate about it, but mostly academic curiosity, like off the wall, something that's not in the curriculum, and to really like support a small group of students to get really academically curious about something, and just to be geeky, like that's okay to be geeky. Yeah.
We can pass it around.
I don't know. Question.
What is one thing, if you were going to go into a class tomorrow, what is one like hidden talent, experience that you would want to share with a teacher or student?
I think I would share maybe getting the idea across that it's not all about academic for some people. So like getting into work, you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to get an A star. Like there's lots of other routes into getting your dream job, and I think that's really important, and not all teachers say that. So giving them an alternative would be my thing. I'm definitely going to pass this on now.
Well, I would probably share with my fantastic experience in Helsinki. The beautiful weather, nice people, nice food.
I'm not a teacher, so I don't have the classroom tomorrow. But I think I will share with our local team. Actually, global resources and the global community is around us. Actually, everybody seeking for the same purpose and the same sense of the belonging about the innovation and the change the world. So I think just wanted to talk to our team. We are on the same page, but we need to be bold even more to think more globally, because sometimes we focus on locally only, but not expand our scope to global. I come in from Taiwan, so I think we are a small country as well. So I think we wanted to expand and leverage more global resources as much as possible. Yeah.
I think I would go with curiosity. Being curious and enthusiastic about what you do and what you learn. I just watched a TED Talk about procrastination. And this guy was talking about instead of preparing for an exam, like going through YouTube. And that's pretty much me before everything I have to do. And most of the most interesting things I've experienced and like being creative was during that time, not preparing for this and that exam. So find what you're passionate about, but then you're obligated to learn about it. Don't just leave it at that. So I would go with curiosity.
Do you want to continue this? Or I'm going to be less profound.
One word. How about?
Okay, creating a great pop mixtape for someone you love.
Beautiful.
Dance.
I largely work with children with special education needs. And what I like to think I promote is give them the confidence to feel good about themselves as learners, because quite often they don't.
Beautiful. Anyone else want to share? I'm turning the tables. If not, that's okay too. So basically, I wanted to do that because what community share is imagine what we just did is you reveal the assets, the knowledge and the wisdom in our community, in this room right now. And community share is looking at how do you do that for an entire city? How do you reveal the existing knowledge and experience and wisdom in a city? How do you connect it? And then how do you share it with educators and students? And I shared some of that yesterday, but just in this room, you can see there's a lot of amazing experiences. So I'm going to skip over because I shared a lot of this yesterday. But again, it's the idea of creating a human library of human books of knowledge and wisdom. And how could you do that for a whole region to tap into that knowledge? Or some think of it as more like a learning ecosystem, whereas how do you reveal the intellectual, the social, the creative and cultural capital that lives in a city? Whether you're a retiree, you're a parent, you work for the government, you work in a church, a nonprofit, so on and so forth. Everyone, I believe, has a storyteller, because that's what I teach. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a unique story to tell and a lived experience. And so I actually believe that in a community, everyone should really see themselves as an educator and a learner, that it's not just a teacher's job. And when we put more and more on teachers, we're actually, I think, setting up the system to fail. And so I really believe we need to rethink the whole model of education about who is an educator and who is a learner. In doing this work, in thinking about how to engage the community, we first thought we better ask teachers whether they would even want people coming into their classroom, because I did, but I didn't know if other teachers did. So we did find that was of great interest. Not surprisingly, they had no time to find them, and they didn't know where to look. So those are, the realities. And so, as I alluded to yesterday, we ended up building an online matching platform that allows anyone in a community or an organization to create a profile of what they were interested in sharing with teachers and students. And this is actually how the platform works. So I actually had typed in ecology. So I signed in as a teacher searching for a partner, and then you could click and I could say I'm looking for a partner that wants to work with 9 to 12 grade, and then pick what are the subject areas and then how I want them to engage as a mentor, guest speaker, career day, and so on and so forth. And then on the right, all the people, we have about 700 in Tucson, pop up that match what I was looking for. And then they can engage in all those different ways. And so in Tucson, we have about 750 teachers, partners, and at about 120 schools. And these are just some examples of the projects that have resulted from this matching experience. Some students partnered with the University of Arizona, and they ended up building a chicken coop together, and then learning ecology and agriculture from the university students. And another project, students spent 3 months working with a glass blowing studio, and they learned physics and chemistry and business planning through the process of blowing glass. And it was a pretty powerful experience for all involved. In this case, some students went to this crazy fabrication studio where they build those ball machines where the balls fall between the levers. One of the parents actually went on this trip and saw how her daughter was really discovering her passion for engineering. And what was really cool is the parent actually then signed up on Community Share because she was a designer. And so now she's going to other schools, and then she invited her neighbor. So it's sort of like, how do you build these networks, these social networks that exist in all of our lives? Kate, who was an artist that went into an elementary school, she's actually spent 2 years. She actually lived in a half a block from the school, but they never knew how to connect. They found each other on the platform, and she spent 2 years teaching art, dance, music, and all kinds of other things with the students. And then in Tucson, there's a tribe, the Tohono people, and Nacho, who's holding the basket, was a friend of Kate. So then she invited Nacho, and then Nacho invited Nacho's family. And so again, it's like, how do you create this whole organic network of people engaging in education? I'm probably running out of time, but I have no idea. So real quick, these are some of the impacts we've seen in terms of increased real-world career understanding, ownership of learning, student engagement, and for me, as I talked about yesterday, about social capital, because I think we tend to focus so much on what you know, but not so much on who you know. And in the world we live in, let's face it, whether we like it or not, who you know can open doors and close doors. And I think we really need to think about equitable access to social capital, not just for students, but for teachers. And I'm not going to go into all this, but beyond the platform, we have all these other components, from an educator council, doing professional development about community engaged learning. We give grants to teachers to work with partners over months. Dialogues. I do a lot of storytelling, since that's what I teach, where we do multimedia storytelling to support teachers and other voices that aren't being heard in the education system. And then a lot of advocacy to ensure that the community has a voice in shaping the future of education. So real quick, this is really challenging work to do on a whole city scale. And it only works when there's a commitment to the public good. Because we live in these silos. You know, a school might have its network of partners and they don't want to share because then someone else will take their partners. And that kind of mentality is pretty much, for me, how the social fabric of our society will start disintegrating, is if we just kind of have these little fiefdoms that we all are protective. So you really have to be willing to commit to creating something larger than yourself to do this work. And the idea of building ecosystems, learning ecosystems takes time, relationships, and long-term funding. You need to have a culture of real-world learning, because you can't have a bunch of partners going in if the school doesn't have some pedagogical practice in engaging them. And then the bottom part around engaging diverse partners. The point is not to just have people just invite their friends into the school, is to ensure that the diverse perspectives in a community are being represented and heard in that school. And then in order to build the community network, really identifying who are the weavers, who are the pollinators that work across disciplines, institutions, across socioeconomic line. So those are the people that can help build the network in a city. And then for me, I've been kind of scratching my head around, how do you actually measure the reweaving of social capital across socioeconomic and geographic lines to see if people are essentially bumping into each other that one another bump, and then what is the impact of that when they're bumping in a classroom. And so we've had a lot of interest, as you can see, around the United States. We're still in Tucson, and then we expanded to one other state, but we're excited but a little overwhelmed by some of the interest, and even Australia and Europe. And so we would love to hear from you if there are opportunities to partner, to help us develop the funding to grow, and really to think about how can we build human libraries all over the world, and think about how do we actually reimagine the relationship between our communities and our schools. So I will leave it at that. I probably used up all my question time, but.
Thank you so much for sharing all about your work, Josh. We have time for one quick question, if anyone has one. If not, we're going to have a coffee break just after our last innovation, where you'll have a chance to talk with all the innovators. Okay, thank you again. And can I have Chatter on the stage, please?
So, hi, I'm Chris from Yorkshire, UK. I'm the co-founder of Chatter. Big thank you to the Academy members and Ambassador of HundrED and the City of Helsinki. It's been a huge honour to be part of this. I'll explain how Chatter works and what it does. Do I have... Okay. I work with technology, but I'm not a technologist, as you'll soon see. Green for go. Yeah. So, Chatter was designed for parents, and it's about talking. And in our country at the moment, there's an increasing challenge of children starting school without the necessarily language skills to thrive, and speaking in sentences, communicating with one another, taking turns, expressing their needs. We have approximately a quarter of children in schools arriving with a delay, and there's a gap, and it's growing, and it's holding them back. When we want children to be reading, writing, progressing and learning languages comes first. And about 3 years ago, I was asked to lead a project in my city, and we worked in nurseries and with primary schools to try to help parents and early years practitioners teach children essential early language skills. And one thing struck us, and it happens at the nursery gate when mum is taking, or dad, largely mum, is taking their child home. Child's had a cracking day full of magic and building and playing and painting and dancing and singing and all of that. Wants to share it, and parent is here. And it's Facebook and it's emails and it's in our pocket, it's in our lives, it's everywhere. I'm not innocent of this. Helsinki has interesting bicycle routes that I haven't worked out yesterday, and I'm also trying to navigate my way around. Nearly got hit by a bike reading my map yesterday. That happened. So we live in a world where the distractions enter in continually, and it's the biggest thing. It holds children back, and it's an epidemic. So I was asked to lead a project to look at what matters most with language, why it matters, and what we can do about it. The evidence tells us, and there are plenty of studies that tell us this one. The one that's referred to in there was a kindergarten study in Italy, and oral narrative competence is identified as the single biggest indicator of progress in writing. If a child can tell you a story, beginning, middle, and end, then that's transferable as they go through school. So this is why we tell our children fairy tales, and this is why we encourage our parents to read to children, talk to children. As everyone's done today here so brilliantly, we as people are storytellers, and this is how we can share learning and information. And a team of us put together an approach which used technology almost to fight fire with fire. So the idea, yeah, we live with phones in our pockets and they're great for this, but maybe not great for that. The approach encouraged parents to link pictures of things that they're doing with storytelling, and encourage them to model language to their children, to let their children make stories, to hear more stories. And it started in that way. So it begins with stories, and it combines pictures with stories. And when we looked at the way to reach parents, the first route to parents, the strongest route to parents, of course, is schools and early years practitioners. So that's the way we decided to work. We would work with schools and nurseries, and they would then roll out our resource to the parents, and the parents would use it. And what we found is that the learning that was happening in the classroom, in the lessons, in the interventions, in the activities, was also happening outside of the classroom. The words the children were hearing from their teachers, they were hearing again when their parents were reviewing the resource, and when they're making their own, and there were significant leaps in progress. The approach is very simple, and it's based on how we do anything, really. So we start with meaningful context. It could be a day trip to the zoo. It could be a visit to a Pizza Hut. It could be anything you like. We capture that event using images. So any parent, as you'll know, has thousands of photographs in their pocket of anything and everything, and we turn these into stories, or rather they do. Modelled language can be recorded onto those stories. I'll try and demonstrate it in a second. And we can hear the words again and again. Repetition builds language, and children develop a big memory bank of words and phrases. Again, as you all know, speaking fluently without notes to an audience is a skill that many of us need to work on and develop in the world of work, and it starts early. Children can practice language, they can listen to their language, they can review it almost as if they're redrafting their writing. And actually, that's the outcome we get with Chatter. The stories that they make, children are thinking and speaking and subsequently writing in sentences, and the parents are helping as well. We used a fair bit of evidence to build this. There's a strong evidence base for Chatter, which I'm happy to share. Probably about 12 different things combined into a simple process. I will make reference to Richard Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning, the idea of linking images and words. If you see the illustration there, it explains how an air pump works with pushes and pulls and valves and things. I could probably explain that to you quite well with the pictures to help me. Without it, I'd flounder. And that's why pictures of what we do really add to the learning experience. The other thing that really stands out with Chatter is the combination of words and pictures at the same time. When we see and hear even the name of something, like a man or a cup or a cat, and we make that association, the word and the visual response sticks in our long-term memory. So it's a very simple way to combine words and pictures. Parents use the approach, and they turn whatever they're doing into stories with their children. So yes, they read to their children. Some parents who have challenges reading to their children might find benefits in Chatter of turning their stories into picture. So in this picture, whatever's been going on, I think they were playing on the trampoline, and Mum's made a story, and it's a picture book. It's not about children being stuck on a tablet and experiencing screen time. It's storytelling, it's interaction, and it's sharing. Just really quickly, with one hand, I'm going to put this on my Twitter feed. This is my Chris Chatter, if you find me on Twitter, but I've copied in HundrED. The idea of turning a story into anything happens on an app. So on my app here, I've got a picture of Ollie. He's a director of a kindergarten in Helsinki. I met on Monday. There's the sea pool in Helsinki. If you haven't been, go and do that. And then there's Moomin, who I'm becoming big friends with in Helsinki. And I can record that. I'll just do the Moomin one. That's my daughter's nickname, so this is for her. Around every corner in Helsinki, we find Moomin. Fine. And I can share that. Fine. And I can get a story that I'm able to share with parents. And if I can pull this off with one hand, I'd be clapping, by the way, but I haven't yet. And I'm going to copy that. Thank you. You could hold the microphone, that's fine. That means I failed the task. But thank you for the help. So I've now shared that chat on my Twitter feed. This is only for playing, for showing you, thank you. But it's how quickly a story can be shared. Parents see instant results. And I think there's a connection with the experience and the language and the memory. Children who haven't been speaking before have started to speak quickly with this, but the parents embrace something that they can do themselves extremely easily. Sometimes if a child has delays in speech or development, there can be waiting lists. Chatter's immediate, and parents get it. So we've got lots of resources for parents on play, stories, songs and rhymes. We've moved into having resources for schools. They use it for special needs interventions. It's very powerful for people with autism spectrum disorders, for dyslexia, for memory difficulties, for hearing difficulties. We use it for writing and talking across the curriculum. Teachers have built lots of resources with us. All of these you can see on our website. And last year we were lucky enough to take it to Malaysia, where it's been used in government schools for the teaching of English. And they found not only are the images helping the recollection and the memory of the experiences, but the biggest gains they found have been in the pronunciation. And young man here, 16 years old, he's giving a presentation on my hometown in Yorkshire. You'll spot the fish and chips. And he spoke at length, no notes, confidently, happily, fluently, and 2 months later he got the highest grade that school had in English pronunciation, and it's having that chance to practice. Currently, we're lucky, a local school to me just outside of York, Pocklington School, has given me office space. They've invested in my company so that I can build more product and more software. We're almost working with them as an incubator because what Chatter's creating is keeping growing. That's been a strong connection for me. I was encouraged to ask for help from whoever's watching this. I always need help. Firstly, research. We do have research and plenty of it, but on a very small scale. If anybody is or knows anybody that would like to study this at any scale, PhD student, larger project, randomized controlled trial, I'm looking for help with that. Anybody, take me to one side later. I would love to simplify the explanation of what I do and what Chatter is, because I think it's easier than I make it sound. And we are looking currently to scale up. We're in a number of cities across the UK. We're here and there overseas. I think the approach is almost essential for any parent because it makes it effortless to give the children what they need. So I'll welcome questions. Thank you for your time, and thanks.